Anyways, yeah, he writes, he's really good. He's really prolific, writes this book, but it's usually how I like am able to just mentally decompress, slow down a little bit. But there is a really great quote that comes from like the SEAL teams, which is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And that it's funny, like I didn't think since I wasn't listening to some nonfiction book about design, I was very surprised that that quote actually has influenced my how I operate as a professional, where I just refuse to move fast for the sake of moving fast. Like speed isn't a virtue. And that's my I think velocity is a virtue for sure, but speed isn't a virtue. It's methodical, establishing a practice and sticking to that practice no matter how stressful it gets. Go slow so that you could be smooth and precise. And then ironically, you tend to go faster. Because when you go fast, you actually there ends up being if you just go fast for the sake of being fast, there tends to be just a lot of waste. Like you're not getting 100% out of people. They're not feeling great. They're feeling burnt out. And then something that could have taken a week of just good, smooth operating takes 2 months of just circular meetings.
Yeah, you got it. That was very well articulated. I used to watch The Simpsons quite a bit, and I think there's an episode where they're all like zipping around in go-karts and like Marge is like crawling and she's like slow and steady wins the race and like they're like zipping around. And that was like 20 years ago. And that stuck in my head, but it's like that simple nugget. I've heard salespeople say slow down to speed up, or I say pause with intent, or you just gave your military. I think there's a copious variations on a theme there, but at the end of the day,
Must mean it's a
it is
true principle.
it must, yeah, there must be something to it. And
Yeah.
that's one of those things that I genuinely do believe in.
And so understanding that, and I really appreciate you sharing that story about like Swedish culture because I am kind of like a huge. I mean, just look at me. I'm a big Norse country fan for a lot obvious reasons. Even had a trip canceled because of COVID there, but it was yeah under just seeing like this culture where they I wouldn't say they prioritize work life balance. I think they just prioritize living, and they saw work as like a vehicle to play a part in just living their life. Like, there's a complete reframe of how they look at it. I don't think it's because I think people are like, "Oh, Europeans, they value work-life balance." So I'm like, I don't think they're looking for balance. I just think that the purpose of life is to live it, and we have this new concept of fiat currency that you get through helping an organization meet their goals, and I don't have any equity in that company, so, like, I don't have any part in the upside, so they get me for this amount of time, and then I go to my cabin in Bergen
Yep.
or whatever.
Yep. So one of the
Oh,
things, yeah, I have to go back to the Moab shirt. So one of the things that I did at
oh,
the Swedish agency was something called X Camp, where I would take people from various disciplines, and then I would take them somewhere in the country or the world, and we would just connect in a purposely low tech area. So one such camp was in Moab, Utah, at the Arches National Park, where I had gone with my wife on a solo trip, and then I knew I wanted to take the team there as well. So we went to the Howard Ranch near Moab National Park. For just a week, we connected and we crafted and we created agnostic of our laptops. And I had people sketching ideas in the red dirt down there and using sticks and typing, and we put sticky notes in the wall. But it also wasn't about that. We cooked together, we cleaned together, we had fun together. I remember somebody on the first day saying, I cannot effing believe I'm getting paid to do this. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, this is a reframing. Work doesn't always have to be about working till it's not about, hashtag agency life working till 10 o'clock at night. You're not just a name and a piece of paper. You're not an Excel cell on a spreadsheet. I think that is a demonstrative action over words caliber action to show that versus painting something on a cafeteria wall. So, anyway, I just had to come back to that. And I think it again speaks to valuing people and valuing a diverse and unique thought and actions over words.
yeah, here's like a thought exercise. 1 hour meeting with all 50 of the stakeholders that you need to get buy-in, and ironically, if you try to do it in 1 hour, you end up taking multiple weeks to do damage control from how bad that meeting went. Or you do 20 hours of one-on-one meetings where you just listen, and you do that across a couple weeks, maybe the same amount of time you do damage control, except it's less emotionally charged and people actually feel better about it. Which one would have the more positive outcome, right? No, I actually, for the first example, because I am basing this off a true story, no, it was 2 months of damage control. It wasn't the same amount of time, but oh, if you just did take 2 weeks to just understand where everyone's going from, help them understand where they are in their mental model, like the project. And then also I think Atlassian did studies, Airbnb as well, where they measured, and they're one of the few like big tech companies in Silicon Valley that are still doing remote work. And they're just like, no, we just bring everyone together for the purpose of just connecting every quarter. And we measure the engagement scores, and it's the same as this. It's actually, it's like, it's better than full remote, and it's better than everyone coming into the office every day. Because the purpose of seeing each other in person is the connection. It's not like working next to each other in the same desk. Because I would argue, because I would argue with the very limited commuting experience I had, COVID happened a year out of college, so I am a little bit of damaged goods when it comes to this argument. But um, like getting together to work together actually isn't the benefit. It's the lunch meetings you have in between the working sessions to get together. And so like why don't you just optimize for that where you're just doing activities, you're creating opportunities to have conversations, get to know each other. And then you could do the work remotely. It's been proven you could do it remotely just fine. So yeah, I want to respect your time, Justin. And I feel like we've maybe just scratched the surface of your book, but is there anything that you feel like needs to be said that's been left unsaid in this conversation before we sign off? And also, I want to give you an opportunity to like share how people could contact you or any calls to action that you have, because I want to make your investment as valuable as possible. Spending an hour here. So what do you feel like has been unsaid?
Yeah, I appreciate that.